Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a new series we're going to be running on this channel. It's called the Makari Review, I guess, where we look at new and upcoming events or things that have changed within Warframe and have maybe even outside of Warframe, and then we basically review them, discuss them, and open a forum of conversation where we can debate and enjoy a hearty, well-mannered conversation about the subject. So recently, we saw probably one of the most adventurous and dynamic reworks of a frame that we have seen in a very long time. Wukong has since inception always been a rather dull frame that I don't think any of us really attest to being very interesting to play. He'd always sit there in the clan dojo and only really be made as an afterthought to, oh wait, that's some free mastery right there. Originally, playing a Wukong was equivalent to finding a guy that really liked putting Vegemite in his cereal. It's really not that popular, but there are people out there that have a taste for that, apparently. He had no personality, no uniqueness to offer a player that wanted to play him. That often led players to picking him up and thinking, gosh, this is dull, I could just play any of the other frames, tanky frames, and have 100 times more fun. Before the rework, Wukong was essentially built around the gimmick of his Defy. And don't get me wrong, he did a very good job of never dying. But if that's all you got, you may as well be on the same level of interesting as a Vauban. And that's really where the problem had lied with these older frames up until now. We've entered a time in Warframe where every new frame, and really every frame that's been made within the last 2 or 3 years, has some form of personality and uniqueness to the way they play. That gives them intrigue when you play them. So frames like Vauban, Wukong, that were created at the time in Warframe's history where the creation of a frame wasn't to create something unique, it was to fill a role within a group composition. Wukong with survivability and solo play, Vauban with pure, unadulterated crowd control, etc, etc. We've seen that development grow over time, and these frames have sort of been left in the past to gather dust and seem all old and stuff. So whenever we get an announcement of a rework to one of the older frames, it's often met with a widespread amount of Not because we're looking forward to the rework, but we're wondering, is it really going to make a difference? I mean, look at Nyx's rework. Yeah, that didn't really go over too well for her usefulness, but by gum, it certainly made her have a bit more of a personality to her kit. And I'm not gonna lie, I was all ready for Wukong to be the same, but I'm happy to say he's here, and I couldn't be more wrong about how he ended up turning out. The Wukong rework has brought Wukong from being this dull, uninteresting mantle decoration that serves nothing more than to curve the steady itch of wanting to be a sexy monkey furry man, to being a monkey furry man that packs a bloody wallop and makes you actually want to enjoy playing him. At no point has anyone logged on to getting their daily Ayatan sculpture from the sorties for the 100th time and gone, oh, well, at least now I get to play Wukong. But now, with how DE have craftily reworked this bad boy, he's a frame you can actually look forward to getting into and playing. And in my eyes, is now capable of rivaling a lot of the more other powerful exalted weapon type frames, such as Excalibur, Valkyr, and not only in damage, but crowd control and maneuverability. Maybe not quite on the same level in some elements, but with his own unique identity and the damage benefits he's now gained, is definitely a damn improvement on what he was prior. And he's most certainly a lot more of a striking force than he used to be. So what has actually changed? Keeping in mind, we're going to be doing a full guide on Wukong along with builds in a separate video. So this will be more about what's changed and why this is epic, to open a forum of debate in the comments or have an angry rant in my Twitch channel or whatever else. The first thing that's changed on Wukong is his general stats. They've been tweaked a little bit to make them a bit more in line with his more modernized kit. Health and energy have both been tweaked quite tremendously, having his health at level 30 going from 300 to 450, his energy from 150 to 180, which is awesome and works much better with the synergy of his survivability in his new kit. And that also explains why they reduced his shields as well, because the shields, they're never really that great as a focus when it comes to survivability, unless your name's Hildren. His shields now have gone down to 300 by comparison to what they were. Oh, and yeah, they upped his movement speed from 0.95 to 1.0 because reasons. Celestial Twin is Wukong's new one. It basically summons an identical clone of yourself, which is super cool. The clone is indefinite, and it actually has some half-decent AI, and will work with you rather than against you. Looking at you, Equinox Duality clone. Whatever type of combat you prefer, whether it's melee or range, your clone will do the opposite, and will also mimic the abilities you cast as well. The great thing is, it also gains benefits from multiplier, so it's not going to just be a flat amount of damage based on your power strength. If your clone has Primal Fury or your melee weapon, it'll be as if you were using it yourself in terms of the damage it deals. They have also added an amazing new augment called Celestial Stomp, which is similar to a Rhino Stomp, but it's generated from your clone. The only downside is you're not likely going to be modding for much range, if any at all, so you'll not likely see much use of this unless you plan on going for a CC-focused support build. But in my eyes, this is a great thing because it actually gives Wukong a possibility to play a supportive role, and it's nice to see more options opening up for our lovely Monkey Boy in terms of his builds. Whereas before, you would only ever really see one build, whereas now, there are many, many more. This, in my eyes, is one of the things they've changed that has really brought some identity to Wukong, and can offer some very interesting synergy with how it can work with combining with weapons, abilities, and really maximize potency. You can also selectively choose who your clone attacks. That will also cause that clone to deal extra damage to the target. In turn, the one is basically what's allowed Wukong to maintain a new form of identity, to give him some reason to exist other than just be a tank. And I think you'll find that making use of your clone, as well as also seeing it run around and beat things up, is going to be super cool. And it's going to be very interesting to have a dynamic that has not been seen in any other frame so far. Cloud Walker is one of the other abilities that has seen a change. Although it's not really changed in its purpose, it has certainly been made a lot more streamlined, and a lot more potent in how it affects your gameplay. Originally, you would never use this ability all too much unless you were in a oh bugger situation, but that often wouldn't happen because of Defy. So now the lack of synergy is gone. This ability is now quicker, stuns enemies in your path of travel as you rise up into the sky. This also now heals both you and your clone, and also you now go at the speed of a bloody racehorse. Like, my goodness. You'll have to see it to believe it. Interesting enough, this now makes you able to go through lasers without tripping them as well. All of these are great changes to make this ability actually worth using, giving it purpose by allowing it to affect your clone, while adding some much needed mobility and synergy with everything else. And with how the Defy has been changed, having Wukong and other abilities becoming more relevant definitely makes the act of playing this Monkey Boy much more interesting. Defy has also seen a rather large overhaul as well. No longer is Defy the focus of any Wukong play, it now sits comfortable in his kit, complementing all other abilities and still adding a level of survivability to Wukong, which he's so well known for. Defy now puts Wukong into a fancy pirouette and creates a spiraling aurora, which puts Wukong into an invulnerable state for a short period of time, and then will capture all damage dealt to him during that time. After that time, he will then generate an armor buff based on the damage taken, similar to Nez's warding halo. This also cleanses Wukong of any negative status effects, and after the full duration, not only does Wukong gain the armor buff, as he also cleanses status, but he then deals a radial wave of damage based on a multiplier of the damage taken. Your clone also mimics this by doing the exact same thing with the exact same stat weights. I actually really like how this has changed, as it gives Defy more purpose and interactivity and isn't relegated to a cast and forget type move. Primal Fury has also seen a minor overhaul, making it much more interesting. That, and with a new streamlined combo system, also having now improved most of the Primal Fury's base stats. Range, damage, and effectivity ramped up to scale much more with the way Wukong now plays into his more extravagant role. Primal Fury is a good example of overall changes being made to Wukong, making his playstyle fluid and much more streamlined. Whether it was just trimming down animation times and making each ability flow into each other in a buttery smooth motion, Wukong as a whole is much more fun to play, similar to how they made Neza a lot more streamlined to play. It's that similar mentality of streamlining the process of playing and making abilities actually interesting to use. That is what we've seen here, and it's what I absolutely love about how DE have taken towards changing frames to bring them into a modern light. And what's rather interesting is the new passive. Gone is the useless old one. Instead, now his passive feels a bit more correct for the lore and vibe Wukong gives. The passive now makes it so if Wukong were to die, he will instead generate one of 5 buffs to save him from an untimely demise. Although this isn't the best passive on the planet, and I find it weird the way they've made it so a passive only really affects you when you're dying and doesn't give you any other benefit at any other time. But hey, it definitely feels better. And you don't get just 1 buff, you get 3 of these charges. So you can save yourself from death 3 times with 1 of the 5 buffs. These buffs are the following. Primal Forces. This gives triple elemental damage for 60 seconds, which is super cool. Heavenly Cloak, which gives invisibility for 30 seconds. Cosmic Armor, which causes you to be invulnerable for 30 seconds. Monkey Luck, which gives you extra loot drops for 60 seconds. And Sly Alchemy, which causes orbs to be 4 times more effective for 60 seconds. Again, it's a bit weird that you get these kind of perks upon dying. It almost makes me feel like they're incentivizing the idea of death for Wukong, which is kind of hard to do considering how much of a survivability he has. But, you know, at least it's a bit more interesting than his old passive, which I think is the main purpose. And it definitely feels more to his character at this point, which is something they've dramatically improved upon. So that's the changes that have come in for Wukong. And I've got to say, out of all the reworks that have happened in the recent past, this is probably one of the most dynamic and most interesting they've done. And I can now officially say I'm happy to play Wukong, which I don't think I could have ever said in the past. So, let me know what you've thought of the rework. There'll be a description of where you can join us on Twitch should you wish to continue this conversation, or even leave your comments down in the comment section below the video. I would love to get your opinion on what's changed, what you think about the new Wukong. Do you like him? Do you hate him? Do you want to see him be the next furry mascot for Anthrocon? What do you think? Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more of these reviews of new content in the